Well now, here's how it all began. Way back in 2024, that was the year when we couldn't deny it any longer. We weren't alone in the universe, and our new neighbors weren't exactly the friendly type. The Omanis shot down one of them alien crafts, and suddenly, every eye on Earth was looking up at the stars, wondering what might come next. The next few years were a whirlwind, I tell you. After reverse engineering their tech, we had China sending up space stations, the Europeans poking around the Kuiper Belt, and folks setting up shop on the Moon, Mars, and even Mercury. But while we were reaching for the stars, trouble was brewing right here at home. Now let me tell you about the servants. These weren't your ordinary traitors. No, sir. These folks had alien gizmos in their heads, turning them into puppets for their extraterrestrial masters. They caused all sorts of mayhem, killing millions across Europe and Asia. But their real plan, that was to get their hands on our nukes. They damn near succeeded, too. Took over Russia and almost got the US, if it weren't for those Deep Watch folks stepping in. But the cost? Well, it was steep. Our president unleashed the nuclear arsenal in a bid to save Earth. Over 100 million souls paid the price that day. If only that were the last time fools were dumb enough to fire off the nukes. By 2030, humanity had all banded together against the aliens under this outfit called the GDF, Global Defense Forces. But it wasn't enough. Those alien bastards landed on Earth in full force in 31, waging war against every continent, every city, every homestead. And if that weren't enough, they brought in all kinds of wildlife with them, dragging Earth's biosphere to the 9th layer of hell. After a year of hurt, somehow we won that ground war, but at what cost? Over 1 billion dead, and Earth, well, she was hurting something fierce. The climate went haywire, with all them nuclear blasts and alien plants and critters messing things up. The economy? Year after year it kept dropping, unable to adjust to the nightmare the world was becoming. They called it the Withering, a name to describe the slow death of the world we once knew. Small businesses closed shop. Construction projects were put on indefinite hiatus. Government agencies, courthouses, and even the military all had their functions slashed in a never-ending series of budget cuts. Some folks tried to put things back together, but it was like trying to nail jelly to a tree. The world we knew was gone, and our trail was taking us to a new dark age. Or at least, it was a dark age for most. The wealthiest and most powerful did what they did best. They turned catastrophe into opportunity. Through a calculated mix of legal maneuvering and outright criminal enterprise, they consolidated their grip on what remained of civilization. They bought up failing infrastructure for pennies on the dollar, acquired vast tracts of still habitable land through predatory lending, and used private armies to protect vital resources like water purification facilities and climate control technologies. That's when a new breed of Americans started to make their mark. They called themselves Salvagers, and it all began with a little gathering in Burlington, Vermont, in '36. Just a bunch of tree huggers, scientists, and community leaders trying to figure out how to survive in this new world. They came up with some good ideas, sharing resources, living off the land, taking care of their own, local communities fighting back against the dark. Before you knew it, these eco-communes were popping up like mushrooms after a spring rain. By '39, there were over 200 of them, with about 50,000 folks living the Salvager way. They had big dreams, wanted to distribute resources fairly, live sustainably, and keep the big corporations from controlling everything. Then came the Houston tragedy of 2040. The levees protecting the city finally broke, and Mother Nature unleashed her fury. And the government, well, They were about as useful as tits on a bull. But the salvagers, they rode in like the cavalry, helping folks when no one else would. Set up aid stations, organized rescue efforts, even got clean water flowing again with some fancy purification systems. That's when people started to take notice. The salvagers weren't just talking the talk, they were walking the walk, and folks liked what they saw. By 42, the salvagers had formed themselves a proper political party. The Green Salvation Party. Started winning elections, too. Now these salvagers, they had big plans. In 47, they launched something they called the Reclaim America campaign. Wanted to set up their own local governments in 1,000 communities by 2050. They were talking about citizen-owned utilities, food co-ops, even their own currencies and education systems. The old guard didn't take kindly to these newcomers shaking things up. The traditional parties, well, they were in bed with what was left of the big corporations, and they weren't about to let go of power. At least, not without putting up a goddamn fight. But I'll save that tale for another day.